Oh, you said things could only get better. I need it more than ever. They don't. How can I believe you when everything is secret? Everything is secret. Everything is secret. Everything is secret. How can I believe it when everything is secret? You see through, gotta make space for the new you, like I'm old news in your review mirror. It must be nice, you went and got a penthouse, all your friends partying it's real loud. Brand new money with a brand new chest, still a baby bird price straight off the nest like you. No more, and I go, oh, you said things could only get better. I need it more than ever. They how can I believe you when everything is secret? No more. Everything is secret. No more. Everything is secret. Yeah. Everything is secret. How can I believe when everything is secret? I go home. You said things could only get better. I need it more than ever. They don't.
What's your status on the apparatus? DK Poncho Live, Cancel Kings. Hopefully you guys are having a good Thursday. Appreciate everybody coming out. This is going to be a really good session, I think. Just a very powerful topic, and just researching this, I can just imagine the amount of healing that needs to take place in men's hearts because of this. So, what do you think, DK?
Nah, I'm with you, man. I think this subject hits home for me. You know what I mean? I've been through this, so you know what I mean. I'm definitely with it. I'm excited to see, how God shows up, tonight, and how God, talks to us about it, man.
Yeah. Well, you want to go ahead and get the prayer started, and we can roll from there.
For sure. Lord, we just thank you for this day. And thank you for your grace, Lord. Thank you for your mercy. We thank you for allowing us, Lord, just to be on the study tonight, Lord. We thank you even for the longevity that we have been doing this, Lord. And Lord, we just ask that you just keep being in the midst of it, being the head of it, Lord. And that we can just continue to teach men your word, Lord. Teach men your ways, Lord. And that we can become better men the way that you want us to be. In Jesus' name, amen.
Nice. So, what were your thoughts when this whole thing went down, man? Like this whole topic, because we're not just, and just to clarify, folks, we're not just talking about paternity fraud with like a judge, and a man being, drug in to be the father of a child. We're also looking at it from the perspective of women who accuse men of being fathers when they're not. And also, in addition to that, we're looking at it from the perspective of women kind of trapping men, like called the baby trap, and getting men to become fathers by using babies as blackmail. So just want to clarify that. Thoughts on that, DK?
Hey, man, I'll start off with my testimony. You know what I mean? Is that okay?
I'm gonna jump right in it, huh?
We'll just jump right in it. If that's all right. Everybody good? So look, this is my situation. So I'm younger. I'm Air Force. Punch knows the story. But anyways, I'm with this girl, off and on with this girl at the time, and I'm not with her this time, but I'm still with her at times. You guys know what I mean. So, anyway, she gets pregnant, and of course, out of who she's with and who I am, I'm definitely the better choice at the
Oh,
time. I don't
so you
know.
so you're saying in that scenario, not to cut you off, but in that scenario, she kind of chose the guy that would be a better father for her child, even though she didn't know if it was you or not.
Yes. Yep.
Mm.
So anyway, so me being who I am, I'm like, okay, well, all right, you saying the father, the kid comes, and I wasn't there when the kid was born. I was in the military, so I was back and forth. But I didn't treat the kid. I treated the kid as if it was my kid until I knew. You know what I mean?
So
Because I
how
didn't.
old was the child when all this was happening? So three
No,
years old, 5 years old?
no. This is weeks, months. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So from the beginning, I'm treating the kid as his mom, taking home to my mom. You know what I mean? It's in that. But I told her, I said,
Oh, you
listen.
took her to your mom? Oh, your mom's? Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. But I said, listen, we got to get a test. You know what I mean? We ain't really together like that. You with somebody else. You saying it's mine. I know we've had relations, but I I got it. You know what I mean? This is something I got to do. I'm just not saying it's mine. So anyway, so we take the test, and the test for some reason takes forever. I mean, by the time I think we took the test, it was like 2 months. By the time it comes back, it felt like it was like 6 months, 7 months.
Mm.
Kids started to talk, you know what I mean? But anyways, I get a call from her. I guess they sent the papers to both of us. I get the call, and I could tell on her voice from the door. You know what I mean? Because we had been talking back and forth, and I already knew. She's like, I got the paper back, and I'm like, oh yeah, and she's like, yeah, it's not yours. I was like, oh. I was like, okay. I was like, you know what I mean? But maybe I was wrong for this, but in my mind, I'm just like, Jigga, man, not guilty. That's the only thing I'm trying to tell you. Anybody will tell you that's all that was in my head. And I felt bad for the kid, you know what I mean? As I did love the kid, you know what I mean? But it not being mine, and not that I just told the kids like, oh, I'm never talking to you again, nothing like that. But it just wasn't my responsibility. You know what I mean? Um, that is the bottom line. And then when I look back today, I really thank God that it wasn't my kid. To be honest, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Not because of the kid, but really more because of the mother. You know what I mean?
Well, that kind of gets us deeper into our topic, man. It's like either our society has gotten so bad. Either we have been the guy that was in your shoes, that was going through a confusing, potentially fraudulent situation. Um, we're being lied to about who our children really are. We're being kept from our children, or in many cases, and I'm going to get into this also along with DK. In many cases, we were the people being used to
Yeah.
manipulate the other person. We may have been that child in that situation. So we may
Mm,
have seen our mothers do this to us as children. And that's an important component too, because there's been a lot of trauma hearing one perspective. This is what mom has always said. And I, I'm going to jump in with one quick story, and I'll pass it back. But I remember one of my family members had the mother had told him that his father was XYZ. And all
mhm,
these years, he thought that this was his father, of course. And the man was not paying child support. I remember going and traveling and seeing at a rest stop the man's name and face, and pretty much saying that this person was wanted for back child support, like on a wanted poster from the state.
mhm.
And fast forward about 20 years later, come to find out that was not his real father. It was another man. But
Wow.
during that entire period, that man had lost his license. He had been under scrutiny from the court. He was probably under all kind of stress with regard to paying back child support. I think he ended up fleeing the state, all because a mother said that he was the father, and that ruined, or at a minimum, it messed up his life. And at a minimum, it confused that young man because he was a pawn in the middle of all this. I want to throw the question over to Kaz first. What are your thoughts on that? Have you seen that in your community? Is that something that's uncommon? Is that something that's common where we're seeing this fraud play out from different angles? And where's God in the middle of all this?
Actually, it's funny that you say that. I'm not gonna put him out there, but one of my friends, he was almost involved in. It was kind of like the same situation as DK.
Mm,
My friend, he's very successful. Especially he's young. You know, he's 28 now, and a young woman. You know that he actually used to date. It was his ex. She had ended up getting pregnant by a man. I want to say he was much older than her. Long story short, um, but she, you know, she had the feeling that it was the other guys, but she had prayed that it was actually my friends just because of the
she
situation.
prayed. You
Oh
mean
yeah,
PREY or
no.
PRAY?
PRAY. Um, but
Silly, bro.
you know, even in my own life, you know, I've had women, you know, um, that I knew I shouldn't have been talking to them, messing around with them. You know, they'll just, oh, you know, I think I'm pregnant. You know, or I'm about to have a baby. And it's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And then it's just it's that emotional attachment, that emotional manipulation, try to keep you around. You know, next thing you know, you're attached, and it's just all bad. But no, it's just it's a lot going on, especially with my generation. I see it
Mm,
almost daily on social media. Um,
wow.
so for me, it's really something that I try to steer clear of. You know, no offense to women with kids, but like for me, or I just can't get involved, uh, even sexually now because I'm trying
Mm.
to be celibate. So just got to stay away from it because it's treacherous out here.
Man, just got to stay away from the situation altogether. I want to play a quick video. It goes almost exactly in line of what you were mentioning, Kaz, with regard to what it looks like when someone is caught up in this. Now, that guy may have dodged a bullet, but this is something that we as Christian men and it's a lot of our brothers who may have slipped up and had a child on accident or messing with a girl in the past. This can happen to anybody, and we're going to talk about healing and what it means as a Christian man to kind of navigate all this. So let's take a look at this video real quick. This is only about a minute or so, guys.
Carnell Alexander walked into the Frank Murphy Hall of Justice knowing in moments he could lose his freedom.
I stayed up all night, couldn't sleep, thinking about it.
Carnell is a wanted man because he refuses to do what the state orders and to pay child support for a child that DNA tests prove isn't his.
So this guy is dealing with a situation where the court knew that the child was not his, right? This isn't just a woman saying, hey, I think that you're the father and I want you to be that emotional support while I'm going through the pregnancy and going through the birth in the first few months, like DK mentioned. This is going so far as getting the court involved. Let's see what happens.
A child he doesn't even know.
I haven't even had a chance to really speak to him, except for one time when we took the DNA test.
Nonetheless, right now, under the law, he's a deadbeat dad. Today, he turned himself into the judge's order.
Scared because I've been before this judge before.
But this time, he had attorney Cherika,
Sound like he had this some other stuff.
who volunteered to help after seeing his story on 7 Action News. The judge said he will not go to jail for today.
Thank you. Thank Ms. Harris. And hope that we can resolve this soon.
I'm just trying to help him with his future. Though the threat of jail is on hold, it is not over. Carnell Alexander still owes more than $30,000 to the state for a child that's not his because the mom wrote his name down because she needed to name someone in order to get welfare benefits.
So basically, she had to put somebody on the docket so that she can get welfare benefits. And this was her ex-boyfriend from way back when. She got pregnant from some other guy, and now this guy trying to live his life, he's getting brought into this whole situation. This happens to a lot of guys, and this has the potential of happening to any of us.
Put him down as the father. That was the only way I can get the system.
Now,
My mama.
She said she put him down as a father because that's the only way she could get in the system. Ain't that something?
Unbelievable, man.
What's that, DK?
That's just unbelievable, man. Unbelievable, really.
I ran into so many stories that were like this. And the scary part about it is, as I mentioned before, either we've dealt with it or we know someone who has dealt with this. And it just got me thinking about it from a spiritual perspective. Like, where's God in the middle of all this? Where so many men are facing injustice and we're being lied to, we're being manipulated, and we're also in many cases being fleeced by the system. Um, I'm going to pass it over to Rob so he can throw some thoughts on this too. But one big thing that came to mind was Proverbs 31 verses 8 through 9. Open your mouth for the mute. Fight for the rights of all the unfortunate. Open your mouth, judge righteously, and defend the rights of the afflicted and needy. Gentlemen, it seems like we're kind of in a legal system and a social system where people are not doing what's right when it comes to how we're being treated as men with these children. What are your thoughts on that, Rob?
My thoughts on that is, can I tell my story real quick?
Yeah, feel free, bro.
My story is I'm dealing with something like that right now, actually. From 16 years ago.
Say what now?
16 years ago.
You dealing with a paternity issue from 16 years ago?
Yes.
Okay.
The situation is, me and this girl, we connected and we did whatever, and then the baby came, and I was stationed somewhere else at the time, and I asked her, "Is it mine?" And she was like, "I don't know."
So this was 16 years ago. You asked her. She said she popped up and said at the time when you knew her 16 years ago, she said that she's pregnant and she didn't know if it was yours or not. That's what we're saying.
She had the baby.
Had the baby. Gotcha.
And so I flew from where I was at and came home from where I was at overseas, came home to get a test, and then the test that I got was not admissible in court, but it says it's not my kid.
So you got a DNA test from who?
Mail order test.
And they didn't allow that in court?
Did not know.
How much had you paid up until that point? Just a rough guess and real quickly. Travel fees, time off, DNA report, lawyers.
Oh, up until that point, man, I want to say about a good $900.
Just at that point. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I come and I travel down there and I get the test, and then the test says it's not my kid.
Okay, your test says that. Okay, gotcha.
So I live my life and I'm good, and then all of a sudden it comes back in what is it? Like 7 years later? Now they saying it's my kid.
No, now, is it test saying that, or is the court saying that?
The court and the people saying that, yeah. No test, not at all.
Okay.
So she just put your name down because it sounds very similar to what Kaz was saying, very similar to what DK was saying, because you may have been the best provider for that child.
Yes, exactly, 100%. So I get the thing, and now I'm married with my own kid in the oven.
What is that?
Oh man!
So it's like, okay, I go into the test, and I take the test, the state ordered test, cause this time I got a lawyer and everything involved.
So you $900 up into previously. Now you got a lawyer, which is another at least at $2,000.
Yeah, I'm right now. I'm up to $3,500.
Okay.
So I go ahead and my lawyer, he ordered everything. I get the test taken. She don't take the kid to take the test.
So she refuses to test the child.
The kid never got tested.
Oh, brother.
So I go get tested, and then it's like, okay, well, just sitting out there. I get tested, so then it comes back now. What, 2003? It comes back like 7-10 years later. Now it's like, okay, now we all on the same page. Everybody want to get tested now.
This is after 16 years.
16 years, man.
Wow.
And my thing is, yes, what the video you played is 100% accurate. They want to name the person that can get them the most benefits because they know if the real father is in jail, they don't get this many that much benefits.
Oh, yeah.
They're not gonna recoup that. So they
And that's
want
a
to
good point. I've been doing a lot of research on this. And this is where a lot of the injustice takes place is the state has to give her welfare or whatever the case may be. But if there's no father to help offset the cost that the state is doing to give her government welfare, it's straight out of their pocket. So they need these dads to step up, any dad to step up and subsidize this system, even if it's not the right person, because there's so much pressure to not give away free stuff to women who don't have fathers for their children.
But at the end of the day, if it's not mine, I will fight tooth and nail to let them know that it's not mine. Don't use my name. Don't use my money. Nothing at all. I will spend money to make sure that you don't defame me. But at the same time, I think it comes as a big messed up on a little girl's part because now she don't have a father, and it's like that's not my fault.
And that brings up another point too. There's so much to unpack with this. And I really want to talk to some of the ladies if any women are available. If you guys keep in mind, folks, you can always drop a comment on Facebook or YouTube and we will see that, we will read that. Do you think that, and I want to throw this question to Corey. Do you think that women are thinking in best interest of the child to just pick the best dad that's available that may have had a turn in the hay with them, when they got pregnant?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, bro.
All right. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, to be quite honest. They're seeking the best opportunity, right? So, if you're that mark, if you want to call it that, that's going to be the best provider or the best role model, or the best male figure for the child. Obviously, she's going to benefit from that. So, but bigger than that, I think some of it. I mean, we got to take accountability too, right? As men, and to not be so loose with our seed, to not end up in those situations in the first place.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's unfortunate that this type of stuff happens, but we wouldn't be in that position if we wasn't so loose with our seed. So we have to,
absolutely 100%,
right? And that's on our behalf, and then on the woman's behalf, because it takes two, right? The court system or the justice or the legal system clearly is rigged against men or fathers. There should be some type of legislation, that allows fathers, to demand a paternity test to not allow us to even get into this situation.
It's funny you bring that up. In some states, you're not even allowed to request a DNA test without the mother's consent.
Wow.
And it makes you wonder, is this happening because they need someone to get on the record to pay for this child, and they're just taking whoever the mother says is the best candidate? And it really sheds a lot of light. We've already done what's wrong, right? The child is here. We've had sex with this woman in most cases. Some cases, men are being hit for child support, even if they didn't even sleep with the woman. There's stories out there, and I have them. But presuming that we did sleep with this woman, we made a big mistake. Now the child is here, but the woman has no clue who the father is, And now you're trying to clear things up, and she's like, nah, you're going to at least take care of this baby until we can get a DNA test. But I want you guys to check this out. And I want to throw it over to Amp after this to comment. But in France, there are some even stranger laws. I want you guys to check this out.
It's actually illegal in France now to test for paternity, isn't it?
mind-boggling. How on earth can that be made illegal? You can't tell if that is your kid or not. You're not allowed to know. Just take care of it. There are a lot of men who have been into raising another man's kid and don't even realize.
Private DNA paternity testing is illegal, including through laboratories in other countries, and is punishable by up to a year in prison and a 15,000 euros fine. Various tests.
Could you imagine that? And the reason why this is happening in France, guys, is because I'll make sure I say this right. 30% of the children that were DNA tested in these contested situations, the men were not the fathers. So they had nobody in France to pay for these children. It became such a social issue that they made it illegal for them to get DNA tests for their children. Illegal, finable for up to, or prison sentence up to 1 year if you do it. Irregardless of genetic issues that you may have passing down to a potential child, can't do it. So that's the kind of scenario that we're dealing with. And it's really showing that, and I don't want to point the finger at the women too much, and I want some ladies to come on tonight or leave some comments on Facebook or leave comments on the YouTube Live. The state is trying to keep men in a situation where they have no voice in what happens. If you're married to a woman for 2 years, you have a child that probably isn't yours, you're not breaking up that family. They said they created the law in France because it was disrupting the family structure. Can you believe that? All right, we're going to pass it over to Amp. Amp, we've been covering a lot there and just trying to get our feet underneath this topic of all of us going through something similar with this paternity issue. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, I want to say hello to everybody. What's going on? What's going on?
What's going on,
bro? Oh boy, how do I see it? How do I think of it? Dude, man, I think we had this conversation just like a day or two ago. Restrictions versus non-restriction. I don't really know how to feel about it. Because it's seeming like the shift is happening everywhere, just in a different way. And you can't control it. You know what I mean? There's no control. Like to any experiment, there's a control. There's no control. It is just straight up everywhere. And there's all these stories. You know, everyone has scenarios. Everyone has stories. Yet for some reason, these stories aren't being heard or at least considered. Right. And
why do you think that's happening, Amp? Why do you think that people don't care about what these men are going through, what we're going through? Because it sounds like a lot of us have had a situation like this.
Because I think the only person who would have to care would be women. But I listen to all the conversations and I don't, at least I'm not receiving an answer as to why they don't care. But it's certainly showing. Right. And reason being is because when our women have something, we go to bat for them. We fight for them. Right. If they need rights, we'd fight for them. And we see this all over the news. I won't necessarily name each topic that we're fighting for, but I don't see anyone.
Fight for our women?
Bruh.
Do we really fight for our women? I get you. I'm tracking. Go ahead, though.
I think that we do. And in a lot of cases. I just don't see it reciprocated, right? And even outside of the public, or outside of media, which also there's so many indications that they don't care. I mean, I hear all the songs and stuff, and I'm a photographer, and I hear all these songs, and I'm watching these people dancing to these songs like they really make sense. And I can only assume that they agree with it, right? And the crazy stuff I'm hearing, I don't know, man. Why don't they care? I'd like to hear if they do.
Well, that's actually one of the questions that I had later on. We know that paternity issues are coming, and we know that they primarily are being perpetrated by women in the state and the federal government. What are our mothers saying? What are our aunties and our female cousins saying about this? What are they saying when they have another cousin who they know has been sleeping around and is baby trapping somebody. I'm not baby trapping, but trying to get the best candidate to pay for that child. What are the other cousins and nieces and whoever, what are they saying when they know that a young lady is literally trying to get pregnant, even though that man is trusting her to do family planning and doing that just so that she can entrap him into a relationship or to pay for child support?
So
Um,
I will say that what I did realize is I've been asking a lot of people a lot of questions regarding this subject, not people, women particularly. And from what I see or from what I hear, is they typically stand up for them. It doesn't really matter the scenario. And I had to talk to a couple women and ask this question: why? Well, it started with me asking their preference in guy friends versus female friends, and their answer is because they don't trust females, right? But then in situations like this, they trust them immediately. If if you say, as a man, hey, the woman's doing this, they won't hear you, and it's almost like the Matrix.
So it sounds like you're saying that a lot of women want to keep other women around, to include our own family members, supporting other crazy stuff women are doing when it comes to this, because they know they're going to hear what they want to hear. They're going to give them the answer that they want. Yeah, girl, you go ahead and get him for child support, or they're always going to give that woman a benefit of the doubt. Throwing it back to Corey, and we'll open the panel up to some other folks. Corey, why do you think that women are so prone to be so forgiving of these kind of egregious behaviors?
Because it doesn't affect them. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't really affect them. I mean, they co-sign it either by, covertly or overtly, right? They're either going to come out and say, "Hey, yeah, you go, girl, get yours," do you, or they don't say anything at all when you know that what she's doing is wrong, but you're still co-signing it because you could step in and say something, or you're wrong or whatever. But as to the reason why, I couldn't tell you.
Jay, don't want to miss you. And before we throw it to you, Jay, we got a Facebook comment here. I think we got to do a better job of spotting red flags. I think too much men nowadays jump into commitment too early. So the Facebook user is saying that men are jumping into commitment that involves sexual activity too early without vetting these women properly. Then next thing you know, you in a baby trap, or you're in a situation where you're paying child support, even though she's been getting ran through by John Travius now.
Bruh.
So,
Mike,
I want to run that question by Jay, going back to that video too.
Oh, what's up, y'all?
Hey, what's going on, Mike?
I don't know if everyone heard, but I don't know if everyone heard. I just wanted to put it out there. All that stuff that I've been going through, whatever, with the court and all that. I just won. I just fully registered Mikey in Lewisberry Township.
Nice.
Yeah. So
and you were dealing with a paternity issue too, right?
Nah. We just we got split custody, and I got all that when just through the conciliations, but then I just went to court officially because she agreed and I agreed we're going to keep instead of going for full custody, we're going to keep everything the same with the custody arrangement. It's 50-50, but we made the whole issue about school. Pretty much my lawyer was like, that's our best bet, because if the judge rules in my favor, the judge ain't going to pull him back out of school if I lose custody later to put him in her school. So it gives me a little bit of leverage for whenever we do go back for the whole custody matter. But the judge was pretty much like, between all the testimony and all the evidence, the judge is like, listen, I feel as though Michael Sizer Jr. would best fit at Lewisberry School. So he's going to the middle school in my area.
Well, just to clarify and kind of spin everybody up, we do a support system. We have Bible studies. We have these kind of conversations here too. And Mike kind of brought it forward that his child was not in a healthy environment, if not dangerous. And he's having to fight tooth and nail to get his child out of a dangerous and unhealthy environment that he is currently with the child's mother. And it shouldn't be that way, because it seems like it's very difficult a lot of times for men to get the right kind of advocacy in what seems to be a corrupt system. Throwing that back over to Jay, like I mentioned before, Jay, do you have anything you want to add to this conversation? Hey, whoever said hey to me on Facebook, appreciate it. We don't see your name there. You gotta go into StreamYard to put your name in. But whoever said hi, what's up?
Punch, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to add this, right? Like, and I play the advocate. I play the devil's advocate. I play the advocate, right? That, so I hold on to this verse dearly, right? And I think most Christians, or all Christians, hold on to it dearly, but more than we do is that it says that all things work together for the good for those who love God, who's called according to His purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even when we go through situations where it seems like, the enemy is winning, the court's winning, this and that, but we know that the God that we serve is able to change any situation, is able to, make the possible out of impossible, right? And even when it's bad, even when we were talking and I listened to what Kaz said, I was thinking what I said, and the crazy part, Kaz said, like the lady was praying that the father was the other guy, right? Because
Right.
they want good fathers. I'm sure the girl that I dealt with, she wanted me to be that father, right? But God still worked it out where it just wasn't for me. He knew what was the best for me. But then I think about my uncle, right? My uncle he had two kids with my aunt, right? And one was his and one wasn't, but he didn't know. But he didn't know it until almost like a year ago. You figure my uncle's 65. His son's about 25. His daughter is like 21. But the daughter wasn't his. But the crazy part was that it didn't matter to him, even though I I don't know why they ended up getting a test. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like no like she wasn't sick or nothing. I think the mom had said something, my aunt had said something, and they ended up getting a test. And it wasn't his, but he said, you know what? And I don't see this man cry. You don't see older black men cry, but he was like that. He said, it doesn't matter because that's my daughter. You know what I mean? And he raised her. Now he didn't have to pay child support, but he took care of her. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, like I know it matters. It does matter. It does matter. I'm not saying it doesn't. But if God puts you in a situation where maybe you were wronged by someone, but it still worked together for the good for that person that you served. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see where you're getting at.
You know what I mean? Like I really commended her. Like for me, it probably would have hurt me, but still, at the end of the day, it was like if I had raised this person to the 21, and now it was not yours. Well, so what you just that ain't my daughter. I ain't gonna talk to you. No, nah. You know what I mean? You still my daughter. You know what I mean? Even when I think about my stepdaughter, I don't even call her I'm saying stepdaughter because we on here, but really, it's just my daughter. You know what I mean?
I'm tracking, and my thing is, we as men, we are owed the dignity of knowing the truth.
Mm-hmm.
We're owed the dignity of knowing who we're raising. Is that our child or is it not our child? On top of that,
Should have
the
a
child
choice.
needs to know who their true father is. And in many cases, it's a disservice to the other man that's involved that he doesn't get the truth about him having a child. You see what I'm
True.
saying? So there is a trickle effect of a lot of negative things that are happening because one person either didn't want to tell the truth or they just lied. And I'm talking about the women. And you mentioned that all things work out, but there's also Proverbs 6, 16 through 19. There are 6 things which the Lord hates, yet even 7 which are an abomination to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that run rapidly to evil, a false witness who utters lies, and one who spreads strife amongst brothers. So God is against someone who is devising a wicked plan, someone who has a lying tongue. not necessarily for just the child, because they're lying to everybody in this situation.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing for that person to lie to that man. We deserve to know the truth. We're not just resources and ATMs as men. I think that God really wants us to know the truth. That's why God spoke to Joseph when he found out that Mary was actually was not the was impregnated by the Holy Spirit, and Joseph was getting ready to get rid of her. He was getting ready to end the marriage and put her away quietly and secretly, because he's like, she's been jumping off with somebody else. But what did God say? He says, I understand what you're going through, Joseph. You have every right to do what you're doing. But I want to give you the choice in the matter and let you know the truth about what's going on. God understood that situation, and he did what he had to do to give Joseph the proper choice. Right?
Amen.
So that's all I'm saying. And I think that most of the guys would be online with that. We as men deserve to have the knowledge about the truth about our lineage, and we deserve to have the proper resources and information to choose whether we want to be fathers, or if we want to be fathers or not, if it's not our child. Is that making sense, guys? Pass it over to Jay. Jay, you back on, and if Jay's not around, we can ask Kazanari.
Yeah, I think Jay. I think he can't. So he has an issue with talking on here.
Okay. All right, Kaz, what do you think? Should we have a choice, or is it just God's grace for us to take care of a responsibility because we may be the best person to do it?
You said, do we? Can you repeat that real quick?
So should we have a choice? I mean, or is it okay for us as men to go into a situation, show God's grace, and use our resources to take care of that child, even though we may have been lied to, but we're doing a good thing for the mother and the child? Or should we be able to have a choice in the matter and walk away?
Well, I think that ultimately boils down, because you have to ask yourself. I mean, to me, it's an individual thing, but for me personally, I couldn't, because I know at the end of the day, I would potentially end up losing myself.
Mm.
And in doing that, yes, I'm providing for a child. Yes, I'm, making the world a better place, so to speak. But am I loving myself? And at the end of the day, if I'm not loving myself, how does that affect my relationship with God? How does that affect my relationship with others, just outside of this situation that I'm handling because I was involved some way, somehow? And I think people don't tend to think, as men, we don't get that time to actually self-reflect, truly care about ourselves, figure out the things that we need to do for us, because we're so people-minded. When you have a real man, he's focused on prioritizing, his family, his friends, his job, all these different things, to where he doesn't even, focus on himself. And so, in that situation, I would say, we should have a choice. We should be able to say, no, I don't want to do that, especially if you really didn't have anything to do with the situation in the first place.
I think that the big thing is we don't respect men's choice in this situation. And I want to bring up this video real quick that kind of highlights this. This is about a minute long, guys. Take a listen to this.
That whoever is actually the biological father, they should be notified if they're the father. But where does but what happens though if you are someone and you've been told it's yours, and here you are forced to pay child support, then you find out it's not yours?
Yeah, and that's exactly how I got on this situation. I had a young man stop me in the barbershop, and he said, I thought I had a child with a lady that I was in a long-term relationship with. We went to juvenile court. When her mother told me that she'd been with her ex-boyfriend the whole time, I got a DNA test, went to juvenile court. The juvenile court magistrate banged the gavel down and said, somebody's got to feed them, and it's going to be you. And
still said,
could you guys imagine that? Being in a situation where the court, the judge says somebody has to pay for this child, and it might as well be you.
In a situation like that, that's when you have to pay the money to get a good lawyer.
I understand that, but we're also looking at it from a perspective of the lack of justice and the lack of respect when it comes to men's choice in these situations. Somebody has to pay for this kid. and it may as well be you, knowing good and well that that wasn't the child's father.
It may as well not be me.
What do you mean by that?
Because you're not gonna make me pay for something that's you're not gonna make me pay for a mistake that's not mine.
If it's court ordered, you got to. Right?
Yeah, court order. But yeah, if you go in a situation like that and you don't have a lawyer, you don't have a good lawyer, that's kind of on you.
But it's such a dangerous situation, because you also have it where the judge isn't even considering that. He's saying straight up, hey, you're going to have to just pay for this child. Why isn't that already baked into the system? Let's finish out this clip and see what he says.
Still said you got to pay. And the way this thing works is this. When you voluntarily sign, you got 60 days to take your name back off of there. And I had a person to come to me and say, well, he could always ask the lady for a DNA test. I said, well, okay, let's talk about that. You're in the hospital. You know, probably the grandparents are around, the other siblings. You're in there with the lady, and she's holding her new bundle of joy, and you're in a relationship with this person. And so you're going to turn around and say, hey, oh, yeah, by the way, I want to get a DNA test. You're damned if you do. You're damned if you don't.
What do you guys think about that? I think that asking for a DNA test is almost as dangerous as asking for a prenup nowadays. What are your thoughts on that, Rob? And then we'll pass it to IQ and get his thoughts on this.
My thoughts on that: when you have a baby and when you have a baby and it's yours, you kind of know it's yours.
Do you?
Yes. When you purposely do what you do, you know it's yours. So when you sit there and you're in there in the delivery room and all that, and you're there when the baby is born, you kind of almost know it's yours.
Then how do we have a situation in our country where 30% of the children who are tested aren't the biological children of the fathers? Did they not feel that same warm fuzzy and know that they were the children's, somebody else was the father? What happened to them? 30%.
They ignore something.
Come on, man. IQ, help me out with this. As a man, presuming you have children, as a man, do you think that we should just know? And if we don't know, is our fault? And if we caught up in paternity court, it's on us?
It's not on us. Honestly, it's 100% on the female. Females know who they have been with during that period of trimester. They know that they have been with numerous guys. They know that they have been with the same guy. So, and about 90% of the times, a female actually know in a roundabout way which gentleman they have slept with, and in about the time, within a 2 to 3 week period that they actually have slept with that guy and had unprotected sex. So the female, I think it falls on the female. And I'm saying it as a male. I might get crucified for that, but I'm saying it as a male. The females know more than the males know.
Well, I want to bring some light to that, because he has a very interesting point. Roughly, a woman only has 5 days to where she can get pregnant each month. And when you have women on shows like Paternity Court, 2, 3, 4 guys that they don't know who to find. Think about that, guys. There's about 5 days where she can get pregnant. So I will give IQ a little bit of daylight on that. And it just shows, it goes back to what Corey was saying earlier. We have to be very selective on who we are, quote unquote, laying with. You lay down with the wrong dog, you might get up with some fleas, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. A wise man once told me that.
Yep. What you got, DK?
No, go ahead, IQ.
I appreciate you guys for giving me a chance to share. I'll pass the mic on to the next gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nah. All I was thinking is what about when you're the other man, right? When maybe it's your ex-girlfriend, but like I said, in my situation where I'm still messing with her on the side, right? And she might have slept with her boyfriend at that time, the day before, slept with me the next day. Maybe she don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I know she wanted me to be it, but honestly, I felt like she didn't know. Like, I really thought she, that she didn't know. Like, but maybe I was wrong, but I really felt like she didn't know. So I was like, well, we'll just get the test, but imagine being in a place, like you said, where you can't get a test. And she says it's yours, it's yours. If I live in France and it wasn't like I wanted to be it. I wasn't saying I wanted to be it. I just was like, it definitely was a possibility. I mean, the days added up, right? It could have been mine. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure some people lie to try to get it, but I think other people just don't know. You know what I mean?
Well,
They're sleeping around and don't know.
the question is it a legal or a moral issue? And for men, it's both. When we're in a situation where someone says that you're gonna be the father of this child and they're lying to us, or they don't know, that still falls on, in my opinion, the woman. Now, society is going to tell you, and I'm going to disagree here slightly, that all the men involved in that are going to have to step up and be baby daddies until we figure out who the child is. We have to, it goes back to what we were saying before. We got to be careful who we messing with, because once your seed leaves your body, man, you have no rights after that. You have no rights on whether that child lives or dies with an abortion, because the women have the right to choose. You have no rights when it comes to paternity, especially if the child is, more importantly, if the child is yours. That's 18 years of your life. All this is showing me is two things with this study. Number one, men have to be very careful how they protect their meat, their money, energy, attention, and time, and they have to be very selective on who they're laying with, because anything can happen.
Unless you're Mike, and everything, works together for the good, right, Mike?
Man, listen. When I walked into that room and I was going through what I was going through and all that nervousness, the only thing I could keep thinking running through my head was what Mr. DK was talking about, that no matter what, God ain't gonna put my youngin through anything he ain't supposed to go through. So that's what got me through that. But I mean, yeah. Praise Mr. DK for that. Like
don't praise me.
Listen, but you always
me.
speak positive. Now I mean, you always tell me. Now I mean, like when you want positive things, you gotta. Now I mean, think about it. Like that's how shit works. Like I mean, I tried to. So all right, I was in a real bad marriage, and my faith at one point in time was at an all-time high. Then, now I mean, I started losing faith in certain things because I had my beliefs in what I believed the marriage should be. But I mean, I had my ex-wife, she had 4 different kids, 4 different baby dads, 4 different nationalities. It was just a mess. But like I claimed all of them like they was mine, because only 2 of the kids' dads was in their life, and one of them's back in jail. He wasn't in the kid's life for 10 years.
What?
Yeah, brother, it was a fucking catastrophe.
Oh my goodness.
The best thing was me running into Mr. DK and Miss Kia through the whole situation.
Well, as I look at, go ahead, DK.
Real quick. I really believe, I really believe in that verse. Like, I mean, in all situations, like whatever it's paternity or, difficult situations, that if you lean on that verse, you know what I mean, that you can find, no matter how bad the situation is, you can find a good in it. And if you trust God and if you trust God, if you love God and you believe that you're called according to his purpose, then you know that no matter what goes on, that it's still working for your good. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm not just trying to be Mr. Positivity, but I mean, I believe God's word is true. So I believe that no matter how negative that it looks, that God can still work it out, that it still can be good, whether it's a blame fraternity, or a bad marriage that goes bad, or even a death. You know what I mean? I believe I still believe it.
I get you.
You got to more than get me. You got to feel what I'm saying.
I feel what you're saying, and I do believe all things work out.
Listen,
I also want to.
I'm not paying for these kids, because they're not biologically mine. But even after our marriage was completely over, I guess when she got with the next guy, she refused to change her name. So she was having a lot of like problems with him putting her hands on her because she wouldn't change her last name and
Oh,
whatever nonsense she was going through. That was on her. But me and her still, after the fact, we ended up hanging out a few times and spending a little time just seeing where things would go again. Because I mean, I was a good man and I claimed all her kids like they were mine because that's just who I am. But through all that, like no matter what nonsense, because she would try to feed her kids a whole bunch of bad shit. But no matter what, her kids always looked at me like I was some type of dad to them. So
mm.
like even with me not being in the picture for like a year, and I went around, her kids were the most excited I've ever seen them, just because they're like, I'm not in jail, I'm not out doing stupid shit, and they know that they can depend on me. I mean, because me and my dad have a good relationship now, but my mom was always trying to keep my dad out of my life. I believe all kids need some type of man in their life.
Well, that kind of brings up another question that we have. A lot of us, especially the younger guys, may not be able to relate to the back and forth or the paternity stuff, but a lot of people, all of us, young and old, we may have been used as a pawn in a paternity issue, where the mother's using us against the father or using us for child support or whatever the case may be. I kind of want to open up the panel up, or any comments on Facebook and YouTube. Has anyone ever encountered that, and how did that affect their relationship with their parents as they got more information about who the other parent was? I think I'll go first. Me personally, I remember when I was young, I remember being probably about 9 or 10 years old and going to court with my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, and I saw my mom and a bunch of my uncles there, and it was like, why are they here? And I had been told previously that I may have to tell people that I stay with my grandmother. But my mom was looking for child support for the years that I was actually living with my grandmother. And my dad had to go and get a lawyer, go through the process of proving with checks that he was sending to my grandmother that we were, in fact, living with my grandmother, his mom. And at that time, God bless my mom, but she was kind of setting us up for, a paycheck. And I think the court ended up deliberating and saying, to my father, hey, you don't have to pay. As a matter of fact, she may have to pay you. And that was the flip side of it. But you look at that situation, and it's also a part of the issues that we deal with as men, is not only getting it from the women that we're dating and in relationships with, but it may have come from a woman that was close to us, like our mothers. Has anybody else had a situation like that, or any comments on that?
Yeah, Punch, real quick. When you were talking, I'm actually thinking about my wife. So she doesn't know who her father is. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And when I first got with her, maybe a couple years after, um, it was like this guy, her mom used to date, and no joke, she looked just like him. The siblings, he ended up getting married. The siblings looked just like her, and they ended up taking a paternity test. I mean, they were getting close. She was supposed to go down there to the family reunion. I mean, they just like, yeah, this definitely was the guy's, daughter,
mm,
and took the test, and it wasn't, and it was
mm,
hard, and it was heartbreaking for her. I know it was, and her mom really, just I don't know if she knew or she didn't want to tell, whatever the reason was. God bless her, she's passed away, but what Kia said, she was like, and this hit home. She said that even though she doesn't know who her father is, what I mean, the Bible says that God will be a father to the fatherless. What I mean? So even if you don't know your father, I'm just saying this to those people who might not know who their father is. You know what I mean? Maybe all of us on here, we know our fathers, this and that. But it is something not to know who your father is. But just to let you know that God said that He will be a father to the fatherless. So
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
He about to use the same thing you said, the father to the fatherless. But I think in any situation, it's two bodies that get together and make a kid.
yeah,
No matter it's the dads that's the neglect or the mother that's neglect. We both everybody need to be held accountable.
yeah,
You need to take care of what's yours. If it's your kid, okay, it's your kid. And like we talked about a while ago, like when people take care of kids that's not theirs, but they find out after 10 years or 15 years that it's not theirs. Oh yeah, it's not yours biologically, but it's yours.
Mm.
That's
yeah.
Where's all the women on this subject?
I
but you
think our ladies are a little shy. You know, sometimes we get nothing but ladies in here, and sometimes they just don't want to show up.
I mean, I don't know. I was on here the last subject. I was really, really on here. Somebody was calling in loud and everything. Where's the loud girls? Hello.
Well, that's a good station break there, ladies. If you want to jump on the conversation, I've dropped the link in the Facebook comments. You can hit the StreamYard link, and you can join the live panel. In addition to that, you can also leave comments on the actual Facebook page, because there's a lot of guys that are sharing their stories, and it's being shared absent of the women's perspective, because the way the men are painting the women right now is y'all ain't doing too good in this situation. It's a lot of
Well,
trifling. Uh-huh.
oh, I have another question. While you're announcing what they can put on there. I want to know who's all these dudes getting child support.
The men that are getting child support.
Yeah, who are they?
Well, you know Holly Berry. She has a bunch of kids. She has a few kids. Her
Okay,
ex-husband gets child support from her because for whatever reason she's been seen as not being the fittest parent to raise the children. I think
okay,
in 20% of the situations or less, the men actually get child support. I think maybe 10% or less. It's very rare that men end up getting child support. I would love to hear from any man that is getting child support. I'm not
yeah.
going to lie to you guys.
if
Um,
if
I'm not going to go ahead, bro.
in my situation, if I had kept my ex-wife near me and I would have had 50% custody, she would have had to pay me child support. Facts.
Oh, for sure. I don't doubt it at all. I want to know who is getting it, and I want to know how it's going. What it was like? Was it easy? Was it hard?
If
Well,
you got
we've kind of
brother,
tackled this subject before in the past, and it almost takes an act of Congress for the men who have gotten their children in the system. It's not easy. We've had at least 2 or 3 guys talk about how hard it was to go through the court system to get their children, and that wasn't even a situation where they were asking for child support, if I think correctly. So it's very rare for men to get their children. We see the situation with Mike, where he was the woman the child's mother was a negligent mother from what it sounds like, and he still had to fight teeth and nail to get that child back. Now, to take it another step further and ask for child support, for many men, it may seem as if it's weak to do that, and it may be a bridge too far to cross because you're already pressing your luck by trying to get a child. For many men, guys, make sure you're pausing the live stream when you're on.
My
I wanna play another. Any more questions on that before I get ready to play another clip here?
well, I was just going to say so when I got my son over in my district, when the judge did his ruling, I told my lawyer, I'm like, well, listen, what should I do about child support? Because like I've had 50-50 for since December.
Mm.
And I mean, I've been told to not go back and try to get it taken care of, like get rid of it, because even if I'm making more than her, they might still try to make me pay something. So I said something to my lawyer before I left, and he's like, "Listen, get down to the child support ASAP. Get your child support taken care of. Let them know you got a lawyer, and we gonna get rid of all this. But I will be one of them people and that one of them men in the next, I give it 3 to 4 more months. And I'm going to be on here talking about how I'm getting child support
Mm.
because all this damn time. Like, listen, she sent my son over, and she's been getting child support.
Language.
My son comes in raggedy.
Hmm.
Like, I've always had my son dressed nice, dressed in J's, like he's fly. And then when he comes from your house, he got holy socks, he got holy underwear. Like, are you serious? Let's be serious. Like, come on now. Let's be
Well,
so
here's the
serious. Listen, I know how
here's
Dauphin
and
County
you know
runs.
one thing I
6
noticed with
months
that, Mike.
adopted. I'll be down that bitch every 6 months
Whoa.
for an increase.
Mike is he freestyling over here.
Language.
How you want to feel?
Right now, but real quick, Punch. You know what's crazy is that I know a lot of men who have 50-50, right? But they pay child support. Like, and to me, like that makes no sense to me. Like, if it seems like it's 50-50, then we shouldn't have nobody should have to pay child support. If I got my child 1 week, you got her next week, why am I paying you child support?
Another one.
You ain't lying. Here's a clip, guys, real quick. This is about 40 seconds or so.
Percent of the males who get DNA tested.
30% of the males.
Annually, according to the American Association of Blood Banks, which is the accrediting body for the DNA lab. This is over 44 DNA labs throughout the United States. They are testing close to 500,000 men per year, and over 30% of them have been confirmed that he didn't do it. 0.0% paternity. But sadly, because this primarily affects men and boys, there's been attempts to try to discredit me.
So he's basically saying that because men are the ones that are affected by this paternity fraud that's set up by a lot of the women, that it goes unreported or people are disinterested in the findings. When you hear that kind of information, what do you think about that, Sherrod? When you hear that 30% of men, when they're tested, are not the fathers?
So I'm actually a very, very big proponent of mandatory DNA testing at birth. I think that in order to, I don't want to say in order just to sign the birth certificate, because there may be someone who enters into a situation knowing they're not the biological father, but is still willing to be the legal father. However, I think it should be mandatory DNA testing at birth to avoid this, because there's a lot of, whether it's complete fraud, like they know that, or there's any confusion or timelines are kind of wrong. I just think it avoids a lot of unnecessary hurt for the people involved, the children, because people have a right to know, in my opinion, who their father is and isn't. That's not to say someone can't play that role and be in your life and be a father figure, but it's not only damaging for the man to find that out, but if you're a child,
That brother's starving.
they're not related to this person because their so-called father got sick and they weren't able to donate or blood to them because the type blood they had, it's impossible for them to have been related.
We were just talking about this earlier.
Yeah,
today.
so it's insane because, again, now we're talking about, and this is kind of an extreme, but medical complications. But to find that out as you're a full-grown adult, your entire life is kind of turned upside down. So I think it would encourage people to be more truthful with and take the paternity more seriously if they know it's going to come out who the father actually is. You know, because it's not fair to people. It's damaging, and I can't imagine having a child that I believe in my heart is mine and then finding out it's not. That's insane.
Well, I think I understand more why France is making it illegal to do paternity tests.
Really?
Well, we showed that clip earlier. Check out the live stream and rewind that.
Wow.
It's illegal to get a paternity test on your child because they're finding 30 to 33% of the children are not the children of the men.
Wow.
If you really scratch the surface on this, what you're finding is we are in a society, from what it seems like, that is not having an issue with women in promiscuity, especially women in relationships and marriage.
Hot girl summers.
And as
City
a result,
girls.
these women are having children and they're laying the responsibility of that child on the man who's the best person to be the father, regardless that
Absolutely.
they were running around with John Travius now.
Mm-hmm.
If they were to do that same thing in the United States or the vice versa of that, and they had a mandatory DNA testing, it may very well mean upheaval in our society, from the ghetto girls to the women in the country clubs,
Mm-hmm.
because we already know 30% are coming back as not the father.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of pressure on the government. They got to pay a lot of money for them 30%.
Well, that's true. You have a very good point, because if a woman goes to the child, I've researched this extensively, guys. If a woman goes to the child's or goes to the welfare office, she has a baby out of wedlock because she don't know who the dad is. They have to pay 100% to her, right,
Mm.
from out of taxpayer dollars. If a
And
man
health
comes
insurance
in,
until they're 18.
right, so if a man comes in and says, "I'm the father," or she says a man is a father, and he gets hit for child support, and he's paying 10%, the government only pays 90%.
Mm-hmm.
If she's really impoverished and he's paying 50%, the government's paying that 50%. So it would seem that the government is incentivized to get fathers on the job,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're not the daddy. They need men to step up and be fathers to these children, because it could very well mean an erosion of our society with the government paying for all these women with the social plans that we have out there.
So you were saying 30%. Was the number for that 30% like 500,000? Is that what that video said? 500,000 annually?
Well, to be clear, of the people, of the men who go to get paternity tests, 30% of them are not the father. Now, that
I
doesn't
think
mean
he.
that 1 out of 3 children are not fathered by the men who go
No,
in.
no,
It's
no,
just
no,
that the men who
no.
are suspicious find that.
I'm just saying that he was saying that the number was around 500,000 annually.
I didn't hear that, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, I mean, we could. I go back. You can send it to me later, but I think that's what he said. 500,000 annually.
Yeah, that's a lot. You mean children that are fat that have the wrong father? That's crazy, right?
So I mean, so that means that 500,000 women annually.
I don't know. I don't know if he's talking about the women or the children or the men. I
Well,
don't
I
know.
mean, it's 30. If 30% is 500,000, I guess according to his numbers, that's a lot of people,
Yeah, it
right?
is.
Um, and Bing, I'd like to see the number on how many people actually give birth.
Hmm.
But
Well,
it's
Well, the
go ahead.
overall scenario keeps coming back to what you mentioned earlier, Amp. Somebody has to pay for these kids, because the government can't just be in a situation where they got baby mamas out here with nobody paying, and the government has to pick up the tab. That would explain why we're in a situation that's so aggressive to get men to pay for child support. And then there's the ancillary money that comes in, where they're not just paying for the child support, they're paying for the court fees to get the lawyer. They're paying to get their licenses reinstated when they realize they didn't pay for their child support on time. Everybody's is getting a little piece of that pie. Mike is going through that right now. Other Rob is going through that. Give us a quick breakdown, Rob, of the people who are getting bites of you during this whole process.
In my whole process, the only people that got a bite of me so far is a lawyer.
Mm.
That's it. The state hasn't got anything from me because I protect myself.
Yeah, and that's notwithstanding you having to fly and to make appointments.
Yeah,
Now, I want you also to, aside from the financial burden that comes from out of all, the other guy in the video, he was down, what I think he said $30,000, and he lost his job. Um, Give me an idea of the mental issue or the mental stress that comes from that kind of a situation.
I lost my marriage.
Mm.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow.
But that was nobody said and nobody admitted, but that was a big piece.
Mm.
If she felt that if I had a kid out there that wasn't taking care of it, then how am I going to be a good father to her kid?
Mm.
Which was 100% false. But I lost my marriage.
Wow. Hey, Punch, something I wanted to bring up. We talk about marriage, right? And I know it's getting long, but when it comes to adopting kids, right? Us as men got to be real careful when it comes to that, right? Because you get into a relationship, you might get married, and you say, you know what, I'm going to adopt this kid legally on paper. So from what I've been seeing, if you adopt a child legally on paper and then you end up getting a divorce, now you're obligated to pay child support. Is that right?
That's true. And it depends on the state, I would imagine. But I think once
Okay.
you have the actual paperwork that you are the father of that child, there's a model. I think I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I think she's the finest woman in the world. Her name is Eva Marcel. She was on America's Top Model, and exactly what you were saying, DK. Let me see if I can pull up a clip on this. I don't know what this guy's going to say, so if he starts cussing and fussing, I apologize ahead of time. But this is the scenario I think that DK was just mentioning here. Let's take a listen and see what we can get from this.
Little girl would hear her brother and sister, their name is Sterling, the father's name is Sterling, the wife's name is Sterling, and she knew she wasn't quite part of the family. So this man said, you know what, I'm going to make this girl my own. I'm going to adopt her. And now he's being ordered, or she's trying to have him ordered to pay for additional child support for the child that she had from a previous relationship. Another thing I found real funny was she did an interview, and when she spoke about the first child, she kept saying the donor, the donor, the donor. But when I did a little research, I found out it wasn't a donor. This was a man she was in a relationship with. They had a baby the old-fashioned way, and it just didn't work out. But she was so disrespectful, she would call this man who's got a name, photos with her, relationship with her previously, the donor. And this is the part where dudes are getting tired of this. They're getting tired. This is why I'm convinced. This is why a little girl would hear.
It cuts off right there, right when it was getting hot, right, guys? But he's going back into that scenario that DK is talking about. That hey, if we as men are adopting, think about the situation with Mike. Women can turn around and say, hey, I don't want to be with you for whatever reason, irreconcilable differences. I just don't feel like being married anymore. And now you're in a situation where you can be hit with child support. As I keep talking and hearing you guys' stories about these situations, in my heart, I know that God sees this as a big injustice.
I wanted to say something real quick. So all right, so my girl, her daughter, I had to step away real quick because she doesn't really know everything. But her daughter, she had from her previous relationship, the dad was on child support. Well, he was just trying to get out of child support. So he was like, what do I have to do to get the hell away from child support? But he was a low life. He wasn't trying to do anything to better his life, any of that. So my girlfriend was like, you gotta sign your rights away. Then you won't have
Sign the
child
child
support.
over.
And well, he went through with it and he did that. And so her last relationship before me, we actually get along really good. And he adopted my girlfriend's daughter. So technically it's his, but like she doesn't go for the child support or any of that shit. Because I told her, I'm like, what's the need? Like, for one, he don't really have too much, but he does try. And I know what it's like. Like my baby mom disappeared with my son for like 2 years of his life. Like she blocked me from her phone. I didn't know how to contact her. She moved to Carlisle. I didn't know where my son was at. It took me searching and finding until I finally like relocated my son and the court system got involved. But
yeah, so I'm getting confused. So you're saying that the whole adoption process, it put the other man on the hook in that situation?
pretty much, yeah. Like if she wanted to, she could take him for child support. But I mean, through my experience, I'm like, you don't need to do that. Like for one, like I can take care of his daughter, but to me, it's that quality time that matters. Like his daughter lives in my household. She goes to school in our district, and I support her.
Yeah,
I'm
so
with my
we
girlfriend.
got a
That's
question
part of.
from Facebook that's saying, why would a man want to adopt if it's not forever? Are you saying men should get to abandon the responsibility if he gets divorced?
Nah.
So she's
No,
basically
because you
asking the
build
panel.
a bond with them kids. Like that's just like my ex-wife. I can't stand her as far as I could throw her. I can't. So I'm over that. But like as far as their kids. I mean, I would always love her kids. Mr. DK could vouch for that. Like they loved me.
Yeah.
But
So
I
what do
mean,
you?
I
That
So
can't be
I
with her
want to throw this
mom.
question to Corey. Do you think that once a man divorces his wife and he has adopted children with her, do you think that he should or should not be held accountable to paying child support?
Right, that's more of a moral, I guess, question. Legally, right, you're responsible. It's almost like you had the children yourself. So at the end of the day, that's all that matters is what you're held accountable for legally.
Yeah, I think when
yeah,
we hear Eva's situation, she didn't have a really good reason as to why she divorced her ex-husband. And it seemed a little bit vindictive that the previous father, who was not there at all, she turns around and gets this other guy who, out of the generosity of his heart, adopts these children and hits him for child support, which seems a little vindictive. So
yeah.
I see
Real
what
quick,
Corey's saying. That makes perfect sense with the legalities of it. That's legally your children. Now you take the shot
yeah,
with it. But it also
and
seems a
punch.
little vindictive to me. What do you think, BK?
Nah, real quick, just to Jenna's question, on Facebook, is what I'm saying is that I agree if you decide to adopt them, that it is forever. That's your choice. But I'm just trying to warn the men out there before they adopt them that that's what comes with it. You know what I mean? That it's legal, and really even morally, you saying that this is now my child, that's what you got to go with, whether it works out with your wife or your girlfriend, whatever. If it works out or not, that has nothing to do with your responsibilities when it comes to the kid after that. You know what I mean? That's just all I'm trying to warn Janice. So I'm not saying that they should leave them, but I'm just saying they need to know that that's what comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so important for us as men, especially like groups like this, and um, to just be advocates of each other, and to pass this knowledge on to like the younger guys, and make sure that they're aware of how easy you can get caught up and how easy you can get in a situation that's not to your benefit.
Mm,
You can really, really, really mess yourself up, tying yourself to the wrong woman,
mm,
right? And then that has several layers of implications with your mental health, with your physical health, with everything. Um, you can really end up in a real bad space in life because you messed around and got yourself into a bad situation with the wrong woman.
mm.
It's
I have spoken.
And it brings up another question too, because now you're talking about what should our approach be as men when it comes to women who already have children. I think the appropriate thing to do is to adopt. In Islam, you're not even adoption isn't even an option. It's not even allowed to adopt children in Islam. Um, what do you guys think about that? Do you think that makes it a little bit more difficult to have families with women who already have children, and there is that need to potentially adopt?
Oh, it's difficult.
Mm.
Boy, oh boy, is it difficult.
Give me some details on that. How is it difficult to? I mean, you're in love with this person. She may have a lovely child. What do you do with that in that situation? Does it make you less likely to want to be with that person because she has children?
No, it's starting to, but it hasn't always. And the reason why it is because you're always skating that fine line, especially if the father's still present, right? To
Mm.
whatever capacity that might be, because you're going to hear two sentences in the same paragraph. You're going to hear, "I want you to step up, and my kids are a part of me." And then the other half, you're going to hear, "Well, you're not really the father, so I don't want you to do this, and that."
Oh. I want to throw that question to Sherrod.
Yeah,
Sherrod, does it make you a little bit, pardon the phrase, trigger shy to
yeah.
date someone that has a child because of not only those issues that Amp mentioned, but also the risk that can come with adoption if things don't work out.
Absolutely. It wasn't something I actually paid attention to much when I was younger. Reason being, I didn't realize it, but I didn't necessarily date women that had children. But then once I did, it opened my eyes to that world. But something that I wasn't necessarily prepared for was the fact that, like the previous gentleman that just spoke said, especially if the child's father is active, you're going to have to partially share your woman with that man. And what I mean by that is he still has access to her. He still has potential power to affect her mood, her emotions by his actions or inaction. And that's something I wasn't used to dealing with, because if I was in a relationship with a woman, I was the guy in the relationship with her. So essentially we were the only ones on that level as far as the opposite sex that had that much access or ability to kind of alter moods in a way. And also, even before it gets to adoption, another side of it is if you are in a relationship and develop a relationship with that child, if y'all don't work out, if you don't adopt, you also have no rights to that child now.
The child is done.
It's
You're
done.
not physically
It's
done,
done.
but you don't have any. It can be heartbreaking, right?
Absolutely. For the child and for you. And also, dating a woman with children when at the time, I have a daughter now, but when at the time I didn't have any children, something I didn't realize is that I will never have access to the childless version of her. So anything
Absolutely.
and for better or worse, that's a different woman. The same way I'm different now that I have a child versus when I didn't. But just the small things that I was kind of used to doing. Hey, let's take a weekend trip. No, we have to account for a babysitter, or is the child
Just because
coming?
she
Or
can't, take it down to the flow, go
you
low.
know,
Just because she can't do
I'm
all
just
that,
saying, man.
you're gonna
Like
give her. You
it's
can't love
different.
her.
It's different. It's
Hey,
it's
I'll
just
say,
it's just different, and it was things that I didn't necessarily know to even consider or look for, but it has made me much more aware and in many ways apprehensive of dealing with women with children.
So I
Yep.
want you to put a pin in that, and I
Yeah.
want to throw this question back to IQ. IQ, if you're still available, what do
Yes,
we
I
tell the
am.
women that they need to do to make themselves better candidates for men of value if they have children? What are they not hearing that they need to hear from men?
It's not about hearing; it's about actions. At that point, um, they have to show that they are in full control of their responsibility with the child and a mutual agreement with the father of the child. Um, when stepping into a relationship, the new gentleman has to have an understanding of the relationship between the mother and the father of the child as well, because in essence, sometimes, and we discussed this earlier, sometimes women step outside the relationship and they step backwards into past relationships and have you know, sexual situations with past fathers of their children. So with that being said, stepping into a relationship with a woman who has a child, the new guy should have an understanding of the situation as well.
So
He
we're
should have an
basically,
huh? Go
so
ahead.
we're
I
basically saying
apologize.
that the woman, they have to have something written in stone with what's going on with that other man. It shouldn't be no surprises and anything like that. This has got a lot of good meat on this bone here. Let's throw that question back to Kaz. I think every other weekend, Kaz, somebody trying to hook you up with a 40-year-old woman. What do you need these women to do? What do you need these women to be mindful of when they're trying to get into the dating market again? Especially as a Christian man.
I'm mad you said 40-year-old woman. um, for me, character is a big thing, and not just the airs that people put on when they're in public or anything like that, but it's very very minute things. Just I want to say a few days ago, I was on the phone with a young woman and just immediately started cussing at me. and it just turned
What
me
is that?
all the way away. Like the conversation didn't last 5 minutes, and I told her, I said, "You're being disrespectful by cussing at me. I'm a man. Address me as so. Don't address me as a dumb A or an A
Uh-oh.
hole, anything like that." And she had a problem with this. She said, "You don't like to have fun." And for me, I have a test. It's a silly test, but the first thing I say to a woman is, "I'm out of town." And based on her response, that lets me know what she listens to, what she entertains, and things like that. Because most of the time they're gonna say, "I'm out of town thugging with my rounds," and I say, "I'm out of town on business." So, it's just I like to see what they're watching, what they're hearing, what who their community is, just all these different things, and that plays a big factor to me because that lets me know what I'm going to be around. And they say when you get with a woman, when you marry a woman, you're not just marrying her, you're marrying her family, you're now marrying her friend group. You're now becoming integrated into her life, so you have to consider all moving pieces, and that's what I consider.
Well,
Hey, Punch.
yes, sir.
No, real quick. I want to ask the same question to Sherrod, right? Sherrod.
We asked you right earlier. You were gone, man.
Oh, I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Y'all know
he had a good
Sherrod.
response.
He's the most dangerous man on this line. He's like a 10th degree black belt, expert marksman. Anybody needs training, he's the perfect trainer. But okay, I missed it. I'm sorry. I had to step away for a second. I'll play it back later. You don't have to repeat yourself.
Well, you guys know that I usually don't talk a lot on this thing, but I'm going to add my opinion to it.
Boy.
What's that?
No, you good. Go ahead. No, you good.
Stop the cap.
Please stop it.
What does a woman need to do that has children to create a better situation for a man that she's interested in and has something to offer her? I think one of the biggest things that women need to do is they need to see it as a cost benefit analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Whether she needs to come into the realization that he's going to have to do some kind of provisioning for that child. Well, no, I take care of my kid. No, you bring home, a bowl of ice cream or a tub of ice cream. That child is going to eat some of that ice cream. That child is getting some of the provision that man is bringing. And you wouldn't have much respect for him if he didn't do something for the child and show some kind of guidance or put some kind of resources into her. You have to make that man, you have to let that man understand that this is a child that's worth investing in. That child should be well behaved. In my opinion, that child should have a high respect for men. There should be a conversation that takes place. It's a very controversial topic in this space here, but I believe that man should have the authority to discipline that child. And I ain't just talking about going in and smacking the child around the head, but I'm talking about being able to put the child on punishment without the mother having to co-sign on every single thing that man does. The man needs to have, if he's being held accountable and he's providing, then he needs to have the authority that comes with it. If it's a situation where the other man in the child's life comes in and has opinions and comments, that's going to be tough for a guy that's on his square to deal with that. There are men who will, but to share, like Sherrod was saying before, to share his authority with another man, it's not optimal, and it could deter a lot of quality men. You have to create a space where that man can have authority in that relationship. What am I missing, guys?
If I could add one thing, something that's very big for me is accountability, because a lot of times, at least, and this is clearly anecdotal, it's not like a broad stroke of all women, but a lot of women I've spoken to that have children, when I start to ask kind of what happened, why didn't it work out with the child's father, it's very, very seldom I hear anything that they did wrong.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan?
He was that, he did this, he said that. And while those things may be true, it's always refreshing when it's, I kind of overlooked some things. I myself wasn't the best partner. It just didn't really work out. I could have done some things differently. I learned from it. I grew, and now I want to move differently in my next relationship. But that's hardly ever the case. And it's always interesting because we only get one side of it if we're only speaking to the woman, but when it's all finger pointing, it's usually a red flag for me. If there's nothing you can think of in your entire relationship that you did that led possibly to the demise of it, it was just 100% his fault. If that is true, then why'd you have a child with that man?
I think that's one of the biggest rubs right there, Sherrod.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of women have used the best years of their life when they have the most potential to get a great man. They've wasted it on John Travius now.
Yep.
And that's a big issue. And it really shows men who know what to look for that there may not be a lot of discretion in how this person chose to live their life when they had the most resources to get a good man, if you know what I mean. The immediate response, though, Sherrod, would be, we're Christian men. We should be forgiving. If they got, ran through a little bit in their 20s. What would your response be for that?
So, again, it's not even necessarily, in my case, a thing of judgment. It's more so of, I'd like to get the full picture so that I can make an informed decision, because if it's all his
You want to know
fault,
who she was sleeping with and how many people she slept with?
not even necessarily a body count. What I'm saying is in terms of kind of more back to what I was saying of why it didn't work, but also because that's a huge kind of talking point right now on social media of like body count. And to me, it does matter. Not necessarily who, what, when, where, why, but if it's an absurd amount, I want to know why, like the self-value, the self-worth, what kind of got you down that path. And also they try to paint men that view body count or high body counts as problematic. They try to paint that as toxic or misogynist.
You lack confidence because
right, and you're insecure, but we're biologically hardwired to like and dislike certain things. We're biologically hardwired to not like that because for the majority of human existence, we didn't have paternity tests. So if you slept with a lot of men, especially if the timelines intersected or were close, we weren't sure who the father was.
Which gets us to a lot of these questions we're dealing with in this paternity conversation.
Right. So it's one of those things. It's the reason why we're attracted to certain things, why women are attracted to certain things, whether it's broad shoulders, big arms, because historically they were good hunters. They were able to provide and protect. I'm not faulting you or shaming you for what you're attracted to, but when I say I have standards or things that I like or dislike, all of a sudden I'm insecure, I'm toxic, I'm problematic. But again, it circles back to accountability of why are the things that men find attractive shamed, or the things that we want or the standards we have shamed, but you want 6 feet, 6 figures, athletic, cool, stays at home, great. You want what you want, and nobody bats an eye. But if I have 5 standards and you have 500, I'm insecure.
Well, I think that for the first time in recent history, we as men have been able to say what our standards are. Most people don't care. Let's just be totally honest.
Yep.
But that still doesn't mean we can't say what we feel. I think most men would agree with that. And a lot of the conversations that I hear, even on this platform, is we as Christian men, we should be forgiving of a woman who has, a adulterous past, or she's been kind of ran through. But I also reject that.
Right.
We as men, we are allowed to have a prerogative. We're allowed to have standards. We're allowed to say, I don't want a woman who's had a lot of sexual partners in the past. I don't want a woman who does not know how to hold men in high esteem and has trust issues with men. I don't want a woman who has children. Whatever that may be for whatever men are out there, we as men are allowed to have our preferences, even us as men of God. And we think about the preferences that we're left with society, even Christian community. We're told that we should just accept anything from women. I was talking to a girl the other day, and she flat out told me that she doesn't feel like she needs to do anything to qualify for a man.
Nope. Just show up.
Anything to qualify for a man. And I thought that was absolutely outrageous, because we as men know that we have to be providers, protectors, problem solvers, prophets, and priests before we even step to the door with the average high value woman. But you don't have to do anything to qualify for me.
Can I say something to that real quick?
Go ahead, bro.
You know, I don't know if you've heard like the phrasing that a lot of women use in regards to themselves, but they'll refer to themselves as queens, or princess treatment or stuff like this. And it's,
Bruh.
to me, it's that expectation of, oh, because I believe I am a princess or I believe I'm a queen, I should be treated as such. And what they see is, the HBO House of Dragons, that type of queen, or the Disney princesses. But I remember I asked one of my friends, I said, well, if you're a queen, what are the responsibilities, one? Because queens in history, it wasn't just I'm the face. Sometimes it was I have to do certain things. I have to support the king. I have to obey what he says, are the standards and the laws of the kingdom.
In many
And
in many cases, a queen was a diplomat. She came from another
exactly,
nation. They were part of an arranged marriage as a part of a peace term, and she acted as one of the primary diplomats to bring culture from that other nation, to facilitate trade. She had a lot of specific roles to do, and that was best suited for a feminine personality, a female. So
exactly.
I get what you're saying, because a lot of times our women feel they don't have to do anything, and that's a bad premise to have. um, that's the one thing I think that we talk about a lot is, as men who are doing things the right way, it can be very frustrating. And I think that also lends to the conversation of the paternity thing. We kind of put a halo over women's heads, even if they do some of the most egregious things. Can literally, like I said, a woman can roughly get pregnant 5 days in a month, but you don't know who the father is out of 3 or 4 guys. Think about that, guys.
Yeah.
And then we get into the whole topic of the conversation today, the paternity issues. And all the responsibility is thrown on the men, and people don't even care that we as men are suffering with a lot of these draconian laws, with vindictive women, and women who are really just trying to set us up with baby traps in a lot of cases. Not to say you're
Mhm.
complaining, but at the same time, we put such a halo over women's heads and a lack of accountability, like Sherrod has said previously, that it really ebbs on men. And I want the women in the audience to really hear this. Men feel like they don't have any intrinsic value. And do you want a man that thinks like that?
Uh,
Of course, y'all don't care about us, but do
mm,
you want your son to think like that? That anyone can just offload anything on him into the legal system, or through a trifling woman who decides that he's the baby father, or to lie? Think about the kind of men we're producing with this kind of culture, even in the church.
a punch, page. Take away that word intrinsic value. If you don't have intrinsic value, that's on you.
Mm.
That doesn't come from anybody else. It comes from 100% from you. So if you don't have no intrinsic value, that's on yourself.
Well, a lot of women feel that they have intrinsic value to the point where they don't have to qualify to be with a man of value. And so you're saying that they need to qualify to have intrinsic value. You're saying they got to do something? Is that what I'm hearing, Rob?
No, what you're hearing is, if a woman feels that she don't need to do anything to be with me, that means you're 100% disqualified.
Mm.
Not a question at all. So if you feel that you can just show up to the dance and dance with me, now you got other things coming. But what
Now,
I'm saying,
and,
Yeah.
for
Look,
our sons and
mhm.
for our brothers and everything, intrinsic value comes from yourself.
right, Rob. You know that, Rob. That's so good. I'm sitting here laughing. All I could think of when you were saying that, I was thinking of Cat Williams when he was talking about self
Self
esteem.
esteem. Uh huh.
Right? You know what I mean? He's like, what I mean?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It's self esteem. You can't. You know what I mean? That's who you feel you are. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Except for Puncho keeps muting me. I don't know why you keep doing that, but it's
I
all good.
muted you.
Yeah, you muted me twice, but it's all good. But
Did
I
I?
wanted you to. You always say, what are women looking for? Who are they looking for?
In my opinion?
Yes, you got a whole thing that you always say. Of course, you're not gonna remember it now.
Well, I think one of
They're
the
looking for
issues.
it. No, it's not that difficult. You said it's Tupac, but what? Go ahead. You're just
Oh,
saying you saw it at a time.
yeah, I say a lot of times that women are literally looking for Tupac with a 4-year degree in speaking tongues.
Yeah.
And that man is a bit of a fantasy, But
Yeah.
for a lot of women, they really believe he's out there. And I'm not kidding. And I start thinking, like, where do women get this hope that this man exists? Tupac with a 4-year degree in speaking tongues? If women could believe, think about this, guys. If women could believe in us like they believe in these crazy fantasies, imagine how unstoppable we would be as men. If women believed in us as much as they do these delusions, we would be unstoppable as men. I think the enemy is really cordoning and siphoning a lot of women's natural tendency to have hope and putting it in hope in something that's not practical instead of putting it in something in an imperfect and practical man. What am
Oh,
I
wait a
missing there?
second. You know what you're missing? Actually, I think Sherrod might fit that whole thing. I think he has a 4-year degree. I think he's Tupac. You know what I mean?
Can he speak in tongues?
You
Got
know,
it all.
but
That's funny though.
nah, that's hilarious. If
but
I could just
women-
chime real quick, it's very interesting because it's one thing for majority of women to look for certain traits in men, like I was talking about certain things that are hardwired, but I fully believe that the majority of women are looking for the minority of men. Like they're looking for somebody making a certain amount of money, looking a certain way, social status, protector, provider, all these things. And that's fine. If that's what you want, cool. But then what I don't think they're asking themselves is, what do those men want from a woman? Because if your mentality is I can just show up, if most women are looking for him, that means that he's the commodity, right? He's the thing that's rare, so he has options. So if you don't feel like you need to do anything, how do you plan on getting him or standing out or winning or competing for him? But you have to be in the mindset of not only what am I going to get, but what are you going to do for a man? What is a man going to get from you? Because they can list what they want, but sometimes it's not that easy for them to list what they're going to give.
Well, real quick,
If I have all this, why would I want you?
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that's the
Right.
question. You know what I mean?
Well, I was talking to a young lady yesterday. She's a lawyer, and she works a lot. She admits that she is in her masculine. There's time I'm talking to her, and she'll say things like, "Could you please repeat your statement?" And I'm like, "Am I on trial here or something? What's going on?" And we had this similar conversation because she does not have time to be feminine. She only has time to be the kind of woman who is doing that masculine work. And I flat out came out and was like, hey, what do I really get from being with you? You know, because it sounds like you need a woman, you know, to help support your career. And that's not something I'm interested or signing up to. And she really didn't have a response. And I said, you have to continue to see it from the perspective of a man, because I'm what you want to be with. You want to be with a man. You have to understand what men value. And that was something that she had never really considered. She had only considered her own path, and she did not think the man, what does he require of me? And having a career and making a bunch of money and having great conversation is just not enough for men in the long term. The worst of us would smash and dash. But the men who are trying to do things right, that are looking for a true relationship and marriage, you really don't have anything to offer. You know, am I missing something with that, guys?
Sounds like you're describing the typical modern woman. Really. I mean, they're not thinking about what a man wants or what a man desires, or what do I need to do to better myself to obtain the type of man that I want. They live in their reality, which is I just show up and then that's all that I need to do. And to be quite honest, I think a lot of the reason why women have been allowed to just show up and that be it and that be acceptable is because there are some men that accept that.
Yeah.
There are men
And
that
I
pander
think it's
to
those
that.
men who are just exploiting women for sex too. And those are the guys who are getting these women pregnant, and she don't know who is the father, and we got the paternity issues, and men are just, the women are they're doing all these things that are great, but they're also very sexually active. And it's a big mess. And that's how I think we're in these situations right now. Sorry, Corey, what else did you have on that?
No, that was it. That was it.
Hey,
No, go ahead.
I'll say something real quick. So if a woman come to me and she can't do anything for me, I'm like you said, I'm supposed to be the provider, protector, the priest, and everything, and I'm bringing home the bag. You can't even hold my bag while I need you.
I don't think that women even see it like that, and that's the thing.
And that's the problem.
Women, I think most women see us as accessories in their lives, and I think even further, most women don't really care what they can bring to the table because being a woman is more than what any man needs. I really believe that's how they see it.
I mean, a lot of it is men, in general, just not holding women's feet to the fire. Really.
Well, we had a
They've been allowed
conversation
to show
about this
up
a while ago,
with just
Corey.
them.
I mentioned a while ago, men need to stop lying to women. We sit and we can have this conversation right now, and there's probably women watching us right now. They will be if they're not now. And if one woman comes in here, it'll change the entire dynamic of this conversation. Men are going to be approaching it a lot differently. They're going to be a lot more softer with their language. And in many cases, men will outright lie to the women because they want them to feel comfortable and feel okay. Men have created a culture of lying and boosting women's egos and their insecurities to the point where women really believe it. Back in the day, when my grandmother or my great aunties, you tell them something, they like, "Oh, you just being nice," a compliment or this or that, and women are greater than men. Oh, they sit there and laugh. These women believe all that stuff. They believe every single thing that the media is telling them about themselves. And again, the worst of us, you just pick up some of those talking points, you regurgitate that to women, they'll eat it hook, line, and sinker. And they don't have enough discernment, or they may not have had a father in their life or good men in their life to know that this man is just running game. Because any man will be able to come in and say, "Hey, this guy, he ain't nothing but a player." Am I missing something?
No, I think it's super accurate. And going back to what you said about the woman you were speaking to, I think you said she was an attorney. It's just always interesting when you kind of flip the scenario to women, because there's this talking point going around. I'm in my masculine, but I'll be feminine for the right man, or I'll submit to the right man. But conditional femininity is a joke, because a feminine woman is a feminine woman, period. If you flip it and you're like, well, I'm a feminine man, but I'll be a protector and provider when I meet the right woman, you would never even qualify for the right woman. But when you say that to a woman that's in her masculine, that masculine men don't like masculine women. So if I run into you and you're masculine, you're already disqualified for me. So the man that you might be looking for has possibly already silently kind of denied you access to him because of your energy. So you might not even get a chance to submit or to be feminine to the right man because you're walking around in something he doesn't want. But it's these alpha females. I don't even know what that is. I don't think it's a thing. But we just make up a lot of terms to justify behavior that's abnormal. It's abnormal. Like a woman walking around in her masculine is abnormal, but we can't call it that because she's a boss chick. So,
well, is there Sherrod, a such thing as a Christian feminist?
To me, no. I had this conversation about a week ago. I don't think feminism has ever served Black and brown people. It was never our fight originally. They coerced and kind of tricked Black women into the feminist movement for numbers. Once they got their agendas met, they reminded them who they were and kind of separated, because then there's the Black feminist movement. But I thought it was all one. But again, if you're talking from a standpoint of Christianity, the children answer to the woman. The woman is underneath the man is underneath God. So there's already, if you want to call it a divine hierarchy. So if you subscribe to that belief, that kind of contradicts the feminism, and some feminists are just straight up womanists.
So let's land that plane. Do you think that there are women in the church that are Christian feminists?
If that thing can exist, yes. I think they're kind of contradictory things, but I do believe that mindset is justified. I think some people pick and choose and don't look at the contradictory elements of it, but I do believe they exist for sure.
I can tell you for sure they definitely exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. We can talk till we're blue in the face, guys. But I really don't think most women care. I think that they can hear what men are saying, even Christian men, but they can turn on Instagram, they can turn on the TV, and they can hear exactly what they want to hear.
Echo chambers.
And maybe they feel that what we're doing is an echo chamber too. So my solution for all this as men is our theme is just keep making pizza. We only make pizza. You're commissioned by God to have your purpose, and you're going to be held accountable by God for that purpose. Any person that comes into your life, more specifically, if a woman comes into your life and she doesn't see the benefits of your purpose, or she's trying to co-opt your purpose with some other things that may be distracting, I'm sorry, but I only make pizza. And if anyone comes into your life that is trying to make stromboli, trying to make calzones, trying to make anything other than pizza, then you need to just politely tell them, hey, you're not what I'm looking for. I'm sorry, but I'm making something different. And that's the only thing we can do. We can only have a situation, in my opinion, where we reward the women with relationships and commitment and legacy that are willing to help us make pizza. Am I missing anything with that?
Facts. I'm with you.
Well, guys, we have busted our time by an hour, a half an hour. This has been a great conversation. I really appreciate it. Me and DK, we always talk about the importance of the panel, and the men on the panel. You guys make this conversation. We always try to have those gray area topics that we bring up, and then we try to see where men are, and then remind us where God is. And this is more of a men-centric kind of approach to things, but at the same time, we're very interested to hear what women have to say, sometimes with a grain of salt. But yeah, any final comments from you guys before we go ahead and pray it out for tonight?
No, I'm good. I think we hit it good. We hit it good tonight.
So pending your approval, DK, you can go ahead and pray it out. Anybody want to pray for us? Pray it out tonight? It's on me. Okay, Father, we appreciate you teaching us so much. We have our own opinions and we have our own feelings, but we want to be sensitive to what you had to say through your Holy Spirit, Lord. Help us as men to protect ourselves and to be smart whenever we are engaging with people of the opposite sex. Give us a heart of chastity and of purity, so that we don't find ourselves in these conundrums where women are pregnant and we get caught into this trap. The most important thing to take away from this conversation is, number one, we have to choose better as men and not put ourselves in these kind of situations. Number two, you see this as an injustice, and you are doing everything you can in your power to bring justice to this unjust system and women who may be lying, or a court system that may be lying, Lord. But at the end of the day, we as men need to be accountable too. We pray that you keep that accountability first and foremost with us, and that we continue to seek you. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, guys. Really appreciate you coming out, and we're going to go ahead and end it right there. If you guys have any topics for us that you want to bring up, let us know, and we will gen those up. And thanks everybody on in YouTube and Facebook and whatever. Anything you want to add, DK?
Nah, I'm good, bro.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming out.
All right. Good to talk to y'all.
Yes, sir.
You said things could only get better. I need it more than ever. They go on. How can I believe it when everything is sinking?